Hello everyone, so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to code a client in C using WinSock on Windows. So this is part 2 of the series where we do server and client connections. So in the last video, part 1, I did a video where we created the server using C and WinSock. And today we're going to create the blueprint of the client. So what we're going to do is going to create a new project. And if you know, if you watched the last video, if you didn't, go watch it, but if you haven't, or if you have, basically what you'll do is you'll have to install Visual Studio, at least the tools, otherwise it won't work smoothly. You could get it working using GCC or Clang, but I wouldn't recommend it. So I'm going to use a console application, and I'm going to call it, so now what we're going to do is I'm just going to call it client example. And I'm now going to basically create. So now, as you can see, you've got a CPP file, and that's because Visual Studio defaults C++. We're going to use C, but they recommend you to use in C++. You could follow this in C++, but you'll probably have to. There is a change that you can make, but you don't have to make it because C++ is a superset of C. So we're going to create a new file with the source files, and I'm going to call it client.c. So you now see we've got a new file. So what we're going to start off by doing is we're going to start off by defining, well, we're going to check if Unicode is not defined, so we'll do hashtag if and def Unicode will hashtag define Unicode. So define the macro. This should be defined already, but just in case your system's a bit dodgy or something's happened, then maybe you should do this just in case. On mine it's already defined in the console, but what we are going to do is, as you can see, Visual Studio is not happy, so we need to end if. We don't have to do this in the actual code, but from defining macros we do need to end the if. We now need to include stuff, so the only cross-platform thing that will be included is stdio.h. The rest is Windows specific, so you can't do it on macOS or Linux. I'll make another set of videos for them. So we need to hashtag include, and this is one of the most important ones, which is going to be win, and this should be installed by default with Visual Studio, WinSock2.h. We'll also include WS2 for standing for WinSock2, and autocorrects to that, but just write TCP IP.h. And then we also need to include Windows.h. And the final hashtag, whatever thing we need to do, is we need to do something called pragma comment, and it's going to be able to tell the linker where to go. Or it's going to make it easier for the linker. Otherwise, the build will give an error. So pragma comment, it's going to be lib, and then we need the name of the library, which is ws2 underscore 32 for 32 bits .lib. Because there's no DLL, or I don't think there's a DLL for it. It's a lib, so it'll be compiled into your executable. Alright, if that's all said and done, we need to create an int main. Pass void in here for the argument for the main function. Now what we need to do is, like before in the server, we need to do WSA data. Oh, mistake. Forgot to, don't put semicolon there. Then what you need to do is WSA data for WSA data type, and then we need to do data, but we won't declare the variable, we'll just initialize it. Then we're going to do WSA start up. It's going to be make word 22, so we're requesting version 22, and then we're going to reference a pointer for data, which is going to be at data. So that's all we need data for. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have to set up a socket. We'll be able to communicate with the server. So we're going to do that with all in caps socket for the socket data type, and we need to call it client, and we use the socket all in lowercase function, and it's going to be AF inet, and we're going to do sock stream, and the protocol is going to be IP proto and an underscore TCP. Now what we need to do is we need to set up an address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do struct sock adder underscore in address, and I'm going to do address dot, and it's going to be sin family is going to be equal to AFI net, and it's going to be address dot, it's going to be port, it's going to be equal to HTOMS 880, which is the port we're communicating on. Next, what we need to do is we need to find the address itself, the SYN address. So for that, instead of address.SYN address, we're going to do inet. It's not going to be inet adar, it's going to be inet underscore piton, and inside here it's going to be AF inet, and then it's going to be local IP addresses, the IP address for your machines on your network. So it can only be accessed on your network. So in here you'd actually put your real IP address if you're doing this commercially, but for the local IP address on your network it should be 127.0.0.1. Then what we are going to do is we're now going to reference what the address should be, or what the address variable is. So we address dot synadar. Boom, that's it. That's the inet piton function, and this is where things start to get a bit more, let's say, a bit more interesting. So what we need to do now is we need to, instead of binding the server, we need to connect to the server. So I'm going to do int connection, and I'm going to do now connect, use the connect function. The first parameter is the socket, which is going to be client socket, because we're connecting through that socket. The next one is the address name. So the parameters are basically the same as binding. So it's going to be struct. Now in C++ you would not need to put struct, but because I'm in C, you will need to put struct. So we'll do sock adder. There's going to be, no, not sock adder in, we're going to do sock adder. And then we're going to do at address. Next, what we need to do is we just need to do size of address. And now we're going to check for any errors. So we're going to do switch connection. Wait, hang on a sec. There we go. And then we're going to do case socket error, and we now need to w print f l. It's going to be failed to connect to server, and then it's going to be %ld, not ls, ld for integer value, and then we'll do /m for new line, and then taking the ld spot will be wsa get last error. Now what we're going to do is we're going to close the socket, and we're going to do client, and then we're going to do WSA clean up and return 1. And we're going to do default, so if it doesn't match socket error, we're going to do wprintfl connected /n. Put a little smiley face in here so you get a nice little reward. Kidding. And now what we need to do is we need to send something to the server, and when we get them talking to each other, we're going to handle that. So this is basically how you get them to connect. But if you want to send data, I'll show you that in the next video. So that's the next thing to do. Sorry, I mispronounced that a bit weirdly, but I'm just going to show you how to close everything up. So what we're going to do is also going to sleep so we can see the message. So sleep for 2000, and we're going to do close socket, and it's going to be client, and then WSA cleanup like before, and then we're going to return 0 for exit success. So now what I am going to do is I am going to build this, and it's going to come up with this error because we're not running the server. So let's hope that we got everything bang on. Yep. Whoops. Yep, build succeeded. Okay, now I've got the terminal window, terminal fate. So there we go, it's ready, it's now running, and you see it failed to connect because we didn't run the server. So what I'm going to do now in the background is I'm just going to cd into my desktop /c tutorials /server, and I'm going to do ls, it's going to cd server example ls cd x64 cd tab, and then we're going to do /server server or server example. So it's listening now, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to open it. I'm going to do cd to debug, and then we're going to do /client, and you're going to see it connected. Boom. It also killed that, and it did also register a connection because I wrote it before to register a connection, but it did connect to the server. So, hope you learned something. Have a nice day.